If you added just one of these chocolate donuts to your diet every single day, and this is not a big chocolate donut, you could be 30 pounds heavier by the end of the year. If you added just 3 Oreo cookies to your diet every day, you could be 16 pounds heavier by the end of the year. Now, I know it's not that simple. How I came to these numbers is that there's about 290 calories in a chocolate donut, and there's about 160 calories in 3 Oreo cookies. So if you increase your calories by that amount, you can be either 30 or 16 pounds heavier by the end of the year. But like I said earlier, it's not that simple. There are basically 3 ways in which you can lose your weight. So if you're having a hard time losing weight, do these 3 things. Number 1, you have to keep an eye on calories, right? And all calories are not created equal. For example, those donuts and those Oreo cookies are the worst type of calories. The worst thing you can possibly eat are simple carbohydrates like white flour mixed with those like processed oils. Totally empty calories, void of all nutrition. And that's exactly what a donut and an Oreo cookie is. Now, the second way you should control your weight or lose weight is pretty much with food quality. Like most people would say, if all your calories are coming from donuts and cookies and processed food, junk type food, compared to, say, the same amount of calories of just whole natural foods, you're going to be a lot thinner, a lot healthier. You're going to lose weight, obviously, if you're eating whole natural foods. And the third way to control your weight is with food time. Like, you have to go through periods of the day or at night when you're not eating, when you're on an empty stomach, so you can dip into fat stores. And let me give you an example of one of my clients who always wanted to lose about 12 to 15 pounds, never could, and then finally, by incorporating these 3 strategies, he lost 12 pounds in less than 3 months. Now, this was a middle-aged guy. He was in his mid-50s. I was training him for like 10 years. He would come to the gym 2 or 3 times per week, work out well. Working out wasn't the issue. He was a wonderful guy too. I have certain clients that once they walk through the front door of my gym, it's just a pleasure to be around them. I really enjoy training him. And I have to say, he ate a relatively good diet. I always wanted him to cut back on carbohydrates and maybe experiment with some intermittent fasting. But overall, he ate well. Like, for example, for breakfast, he would have eggs, he would have oatmeal, or maybe we'd have a yogurt. For lunch, he would have a salad with some protein on it. He loved to cook, so for dinner, he'd have some protein. He would cook a lot of Italian food from time to time, but typically protein, a vegetable, a starch. I would say better than 90% of the American, say, population, but he just could not lose that last 10, 15 pounds that he always wanted to. And then one day, this was about 1.5 years ago, we sat him down and I said, let's really take a deeper dive into your diet and figure out why you're not losing these last 10, 15 pounds that you always wanted to. And then he actually admitted to me, which he never did before, that every night, right before he goes to sleep, he eats half a sleeve of Oreo cookies and has a glass of milk. I said, really? You've been doing this? How often do you do that? He said, we go out on the weekends. I typically do it 5, maybe even 6 times. I said, I had no idea. They said, that's your issue. He pretty much was breaking all 3 rules when it comes to controlling your weight. First of all, he was taking in all those empty calories. He was eating 6 or 7 Oreo cookies. We're talking 300-400 calories of straight sugar, processed carbohydrates, those like inflammatory oils, like horrible oil, plus the glass of milk, just getting an extra 140, 150 calories. So he was breaking the calorie rule, right? Then also when it comes to food quality, obviously, like I said, all calories are not created equal. These were just empty calories. For example, if he was snacking on something like a protein, like a little piece of turkey, maybe a little beef jerky, something like that, there is the thermic effect of certain foods. Like protein has the thermic effect, meaning that when you eat 100 calories of protein, your body's going to burn up about 25-30% of it just digesting the protein. Plus, a piece of turkey, a little piece of steak. It's very nutrient dense. You're getting vitamins, minerals, nutrients, plus you're getting protein, which is very satisfying. You know, those cookies are trigger foods. Like you eat one cookie, you want to eat the whole sleeve. And typically when someone tells me they've eaten half a sleeve of cookies, they might be eating the whole sleeve. You know, so who knows how many cookies, those empty calories he was really taking in. So too many calories, bad food quality. And then when it comes to food timing, the worst possible time to take in calories is right before you go to sleep. Just think about it. When you're going to go to sleep, you're going to lay down. First of all, it's going to disrupt your sleep because you have to digest this food. Plus, you're going to have to burn up those calories before you get into a fasted state. The first 3-4 hours of his bedtime sleep, he's just burning up those Oreo cookies in the milk, right? He's not in a fasted state. So the worst of all three. So what we did with him is that we just stopped the Oreo cookies and the glass of milk. I have to say, he had a little bit of a hard time the first couple of weeks. I recommend, you know what? Have a glass of herbal tea, some chamomile tea right before you go to sleep, something like that. If you have to put a little bit of honey in it, for just that little bit of sweetness, do that. Put half a teaspoon of honey in it. And he did that. And I have to say, he lost 12, 13 pounds in 3 months, just eliminating those Oreo cookies and the glass of milk. So this is what I want you to do. If you can't lose weight and you think you're eating okay or whatever, you just can't seem to lose weight, the first thing I want you to do is to make a list of all your trigger foods. These are foods that have no nutritional value, pretty much carbohydrates and fats combined, like pretzels, potato chips, cookies, cakes, all the junk food, all the trigger foods that are doing nothing good for your life. Write them down and then get them out of the house. You can't keep them in the house. If they're in the house, you're going to eat them. Plus, food manufacturers design these foods to be incredibly tasty, yet have no satisfaction. They don't fill you up. You eat one cookie, you want another cookie. You just have to eliminate these trigger foods from your diet. And I'm telling you, the weight is going to start falling off your body. It worked for him, and I have to say, it works for everyone. So start today. But if you want more of a real structured program on how to lose weight, I'm a big believer in intermittent fasting and a low-carb, whole food, natural diet. Check out this video. It maps out a 4-week program. I think you're going to find it really helpful.